Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines, coming to you from the West Coast. Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast, and we have our player props video up for you guys here on this Wednesday night slate in the NBA. A couple games to choose from, as we will have each night moving forward. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. Continue to follow along as we have each and every playoff video with a game video for you guys, as well as these player props as well. Also want you to head to playpicks.com. Make sure you're checking out Nate's great work on there with some best bets and player props all over the place for these NBA playoffs. Also got plenty of MLB content going up each and every weekday, so make sure you are following along there. Also want you to head to thelines.com. Make sure you're using that props tool we have for you and shopping those lines for the best NBA player props odds out there. Also head to play.thelines.com. If you'd like the opportunity to win a $25 Amazon gift card, just head over to that NBA Daily Pick'em Challenge. Go ahead and get all those right, and we will send you that $25 gift card. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com. Find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for play props tonight. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, with no Joel Embiid here in game 2 for the Sixers, you got to like Bam Adebayo to keep controlling the paint. 12 boards over just 34 minutes in game 1. Now in the first half of the last 2 games, he's gone for 19 and 16 with 7 assists. So doing work early in the Heat as a team had 24 boards in the second half of this game 1, with the Sixers going completely cold from deep. I mean, they were awful from deep the entire game, 17%, 38% from the floor in the second half. So a lot of available rebounds. He grabbed 56% of those rebounds for the game, and Bam leads the team, has a career high 26% rebounding rate on defense. So I like the 10.5 boards, which is plus 110. Not even messing with his points and assists, which have a bit more variance than just the rebounds for Bam. But I think you can throw in the assists, 4 more assists to be 14.5 if you want. Also kind of like the odds, at least, on 2.5 steals and blocks, plus 140. Because, I mean, this is going to be a desperation situation for James Harden and Tyrese Maxey in terms of trying to get their points attacking the rim. And who's the last line of defense there after, PJ Tucker, Strus, and co. put those guys in a bad position where they have to throw up some half-hearted floater, easy gobble-up block for Bam. He had 3 blocks with Embiid sitting on March 21st when these teams played, also 22 points, 9 rebounds. So, yeah, liking his points all the way around, but I think the rebounds, blocks, steals, focusing on that end is more where we lean with Bam tonight.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, with everything you're saying, too, I suppose it's worth considering the points, rebounds, and assists for Bam. I mean, 32.5 of them. If you like some combination, of 12, if you like him to basically get the boards, that's where I would feel good then about him getting that 32.5 PRA. I do think, while his points have been a little bit more, they fluctuate a little bit more throughout the season. I think also now that this matchup is tailor-made for him to be sitting around in the paint and at the top of the free throw line and moving from there downward, right? And with real no defense against him for anybody that can handle him, whether he's going around them or through them at this point. So I like all of it for Bam. I just like him to continue to sort of control the tempo with Jimmy in this in this series. So I think you continue to look for any type of a variation of his props there. And the points scare me more than anything else. You're 100% right. So if you want anything else other than that and any combination without the points, cool. I still think you can take the points in some of them. But if you don't want to, I'm more relying on the other stats in this series with him right now as well. I'm going to go ahead and move on to a guy on the other side that the 76ers need to come through, James Harden. I don't think he will. So I'm going under on his props, 23.5 points. It still seems you're probably just not going to get a prop less than that for James Harden at this point because it's James Harden. We're going to need to see, I guess, I don't know what we'll need to see for odds makers to think that, the 16 points, 15 points a game that he's been putting up against the Heat the last 4 times he's played against them, dating back to being on Brooklyn, 15 points a game in 36 minutes. Dude, that's per 36 right there, 15 points a game. I mean, he's got the 7 boards. He's got 8 assists in there as well. But the whole point is I'm going under the points here. 41% from the field in those games, 32% from 3, which is actually pretty decent considering he's only shooting, pretty poorly from the field. He's only getting to the free throw line 5 times a game against them. And his individual offensive rating has been about 108. This playoffs alone, we're talking 19 points a game in 40 minutes a game, right? So far in this postseason for the 76ers, they played now seven games, right? So that's 40 minutes in 7 games, still putting up those numbers, 23% usage rate. At this point, as long as Tyler Hero is not guarding him, they're fine. They can't keep Hero off the floor. They kept Duncan Robinson off the floor strictly because they know if he's on the floor, then he's huntable. And they can't have one player that's huntable, or at least more than one. If Hero's on the floor, you can't have more than one huntable player for James Harden to try to find and flop around all the way to the rim. That's what they did. That's why Hero only guarded him for about a minute 20 based on switches. And then you got PJ Strus and Depot really handling things for him, keeping him to about 9 points the rest of the way. Not able to do anything in the other switches as well. When he switches onto Bam and Jimmy, you think he's in a better position? Absolutely not. So I think you consider that, this is going to be another tough, just an overall tough series for Harden, who can't get by people anymore. And they're just going to continue to lock him up in the way that they have. Yeah,
I certainly will not be taking any overs on Harden until we see some of that explosion that was lacking. I mean, we saw a glimpse of it in Game 6 against the Raptors, but really that was just setting other guys up. The props are up now in terms of his points now that Embiid is out rather than just hobbled with a thumb injury. But it's actually kind of worse for him in terms of how much attention he gets now, especially from this Heat defense that just shut down Trae Young. Interesting that he's minus 140 to commit at least 5 turnovers. I don't know if I'm betting that, but that just shows you what the books expect from him. And I find it interesting to take Jimmy head-to-head points, Jimmy Butler plus 100 at DK to score more than Harden. So if you're saying Harden under 20, Jimmy's due for some positive regression after going 5 for 16 from the floor in Game 1. Still had nearly a 30% usage rate, and he was on fire at home in that Hawks series. So look for him to bounce back.
Agreed.
I am going to that Mavs game. I am not going with Luka Doncic despite his ridiculous production in Game 1. He's at 51.5 PRA for what it's worth. But Dorian Finney-Smith, who's kind of his counterpart in a lot of pick and rolls and in a lot of, kind of the guy who's capitalizing on the extra attention that's paid to Luka and just being out there for 43 minutes per game in his last 5, which is how you put up stats. He's averaging about 14.5 points, 6.5 boards, nearly 3 assists in those games. So 19.5 PRA still seems kind of low. He's averaging about 4 more than that since Luka came back. 12.5 points, you can get minus 102 odds. He had 16 points in the opener here in Game 1 with the Suns keying in on Brunson and Dinwiddie when Luka does not have the ball. I expect more of the same. I mean, we were saying like the Suns are going to focus on those guards, on denying that penetration, and they're going to live with Finney-Smith hitting threes or, kind of creeping in on those back cuts and see if he can finish. He's been an underrated offensive player in his last 3 road games now, shooting 53% from the floor and 42% from deep, so for a 140 offensive rating. The Luka on-off splits all season, his production actually went up with Luka off the floor, which you'd expect with more usage rate all around. But his percentages were way up when Luka was playing. So that's just what I'm saying. Luka sets him up. Luka draws help all over the place. And then Finney-Smith knows how to play off him really well. Really smart player.
Yeah, 100%. I love continuing Dorian Finney-Smith. The game theory there, too, in terms of how J. Kidd plays his lineups comes into play. I mean, DFS is playing 40 plus to 45 minutes a game anyway at this point, but you add the fact that Luka's back, which means, you've got Luka and a lot more Jalen Brunson even on the floor than you used to have. You have a lack of defense, but at the same time, we've seen Dwight Powell not able to stay on the floor as long because he can't shoot. And this is all about Luka with 4 shooters around him. So enter Dorian Finney-Smith, who's got to be on the floor because his defense is always going to be there. And he is, at least a somewhat reliable 3-point shooter, going, 33% of his shots threes in Game 1. And I think, he's got to be on the floor. So you got to like
same logic. Cam Johnson at 10.5 points for the Suns. He had 17 off the bench in Game 1. If we're going that kind of small ball, with DFS at the 4, the Suns will counter with Cam at the 4 a lot.
100%. And we've also decided that Phoenix seems to be going offense against a Dallas team that they know can't hang with them, despite Luka being able to almost hang with them by himself. The rest of the team can't. So Cam Johnson did play that 25 minutes in game one. I also like the DFS stats in Dorian Finney-Smith, just so people don't get confused. We're not talking about daily fantasy sports. We're talking about Dorian Finney-Smith. I also like him to actually even probably get more rebounds. He had 6 boards in this game, but there weren't that many to go around when the Suns shoot 50-40 from the field and from three. So there weren't, like I said, that many to go around. I think they have to regress a smidge at least, unless the Suns are just going to continue playing out of this world. There should be a few more boards to go around. And he's been getting the 18 to 20 PRA with consistency this whole playoff. So I think it's a great bet until we see that get too high for him. Another guy that I don't think his stats are too high yet, DeAndre Ayton. We just saw him go for 25 and 8 in this last game. He now has 33, at least 30 PR points and rebounds combined against Dallas in his last 5. So, I like either 19.5 points at minus 102 on FanDuel, but I also really like 29.5 points and rebounds combined at minus 115, mostly because I went back and looked at the game log of him playing against Dallas. And like I said, especially in those last 5, he doesn't always hit 20 points, but he always hits 30 points and rebounds because he's averaging 14 boards a game against them, and more, better than 16 points. So he's already averaging that against them. His usage rate was 27% in that first game, and I think it continues to be that high. Guys like Booker reaping the rewards of 8 assists by just having DeAndre Ayton, not even really just having his man pinned. He's really just got his man in a position where his back is to the basket within 7 feet, and that touch is just beautiful at this point. He's locked in, and he's going to continue to get the minutes. You can't play him off the floor. That's why he's such a valuable big. That's why they need to pay him, is because you're not going to find 7-footers that you can keep on the floor in the playoffs that consistently. There's like 3 of them, and he is definitely one of them.
Yeah, the Suns just dominated the glass in game one. Like you're saying, Jason Kidd had to go with a little more offense with Maxi Kleba. That certainly didn't help. But a 15 rebound advantage for Phoenix, 13 offensive rebounds, Ayton only 8 boards. That's surprising considering, he had 17 in 3 of his last 4 against Dallas coming into this one. So that's just a little variance in terms of how the ball bounces. I think he gets double-digit boards. I think you can look at the double-double bet for him, which is probably
it's minus 145.
Yeah, but if you parlay that with the win, you're probably getting plus odds.
Yep. Plus 126. Yep.
And I mean, it's almost a lock anyway with the double-double at this point against Dallas. So 64% defensive rebounding rate in game one was the 3rd worst mark in the playoffs thus far.
Yeah, that's actually really surprising. But that's exactly why you can go any combination of points and rebounds for him. And the style, the flow of the game last game was just offense, make shots, offense, make shots. So there wasn't as much opportunity for rebounds, but he took advantage with that high usage rate and points. Yeah,
we talked about Miami not scoring a ton in the first half, but I wish I had the balls to talk about the Sixers covering in the first half. They actually were up a point in the first half just because of that whole – I mean, we talked about the stars out guy and the role players coming out with renewed focus, renewed energy. And they did that. Harden, Maxey, Tobias Harris especially had a spike game. And they actually were in it. And then with a couple Eric Spoelstra adjustments and those 3 guys wearing down from a fatigue standpoint, and it was ugly down the stretch. They got outscored 56-41 in the second half, shot 3 for 17 from 3. I mean, they were awful from 3 throughout the entire game, so that's right on pace. But Harden then, after a good first half, 4 points, 2 assists, 2 turnovers, only took 4 shots in the second half. This has kind of been a theme for him. In terms of game 2 at Toronto, he had 0 points in the second half, along with 3 turnovers. And he's really having trouble scoring at all against PJ Tucker, his teammate of many years, who seems to know exactly how to avoid fouling him. And there were a couple calls that Harden got where he used the ball as a weapon, basically, and pushed PJ off, and then somehow got the call, and Miami incensed about it. But Philly somehow, they shot more free throws than the Heat. They got that benefit, and they still weren't able to hang this game down the stretch. Yeah, there's obviously a strong correlation between the Heat playing great defense and winning these playoff games. They held the Hawks under 100 points 3 times, actually struggled to close defensively against the Hawks with like a 120 defensive rating in those games in the fourth quarter. But against this Sixers team, which has fewer options, really, I mean, without Embiid, they had a 91 defensive rating in that fourth quarter. just really took everything away from Harden. Maxey still had 9 points in the second half, but not playmaking. And there's just not much around those guys to match with the Heat. And then defensively, the Sixers, with those three guys tired, they had to go to a zone at times, and that's when the game blew wide open. Tyler Hero raining down on them. Bam got anything he wanted with no Embiid out there. They might have to start Paul Reed and not DeAndre Jordan. I mean, not even go with that facade, as DeAndre might be washed at this point. But this is what Miami does. Excellent rebounding edge in game one, 52 points, 15 offensive rebounds, just being the more physical, tougher team, especially at home. So we don't like 9-10 point spreads here on the Coast to Coast show. There's other ways to bet this, to talk about Miami's dominance and to talk about the pacing of the game. I'm still doubling down on Miami under 55.5 in the first half, because I think they're that kind of it's Kentucky Derby season already, where they're that kind of long-winded horse that saves a lot for the final furlong, and they're not going to come out and blow all their energy in the first half. These two teams do play very slow when they play against each other. It was 93 pace in game one, right? Yeah. And Miami got to 50 points in that first half. So I like unders there. I think you can consider, again, the Sixers to be +5 at the half to hang around a little bit. And if that's the case, maybe there's a live betting angle for Miami where you don't have to take them -8.5 here for them to win. But yeah, I mean, if you want to adjust the spread, tease it down to 5 or just buy a couple points here, I don't have any problem with it. I think, if it was 7 like it was game one, I think we feel pretty confident that Miami's going to pull away at some point here. Without Embiid, the Sixers are, it's really, they can just throw up their hands and be like, well, our season got screwed here. And they just don't really have much of a chance against this solid Heat squad, it seems.
Very solid. Yeah, very solid. And I mean, I'll just start real quick and then get off of the point. But yeah, Eric Spoelstra versus Doc Rivers is a huge advantage for the Heat. There's not that often in the NBA where stars are win championships, that a coach is going to bring you an edge to this degree. But I mean, Spoelstra's not even doing that much compared to Doc doing absolutely nothing and starting DeAndre Jordan and playing him 4 minutes in the first quarter. That's the quarter that they lost right away. Then he doesn't play in the second quarter. They outscore the Heat by 9. It's not that. It's a direct correlation here, man. The guy is too old to be playing defense in the playoffs at this point, especially against a center like Bam Adebayo, who's not a bang it out center, and someone that DeAndre Jordan has any chance of staying in front of. So that's the first thing. The other adjustment that was or was not made in any way is the fact that, well, I'm sorry, I guess I should say Spo figured it out with Harden. To your point that you were making to me, Harden, they figured out how to guard Harden as the game went on. But that also is because they changed who guarded Harden as the game went on. Because at first he was doing some work, when guys like Danny Green or Tyler Hero were covering him. And then they went ahead and changed that and switched Jimmy Butler back onto him for a bit as well. Then they brought Caleb Martin in as well to make sure, and he came in and did a very, very good job on him as well as with guarding Tyrese Maxey. So yeah, Gabe Vincent in, Duncan out. You've also got Oladipo now taking up Duncan's minutes and a bunch of other backup guards that they were having to play for a while at this point. So right now there's no weak point on any point of the Heat's defense, and that's really where you start and kind of end this conversation without Embiid in there. There's no X factor for them to sort of bring in terms of Philly and feel like you can impact the defense the way that it is. I mean, Gabe Vincent, like I was saying, came in, especially when he guarded Maxey in about 5.5 minutes, had an individual defensive rating around 103. And then you're talking about Max Strus actually had a defensive rating of 82 as well, getting plenty of time on Harden. I mean, they had a 97.9 defensive rating as a team, playing at that 93 pace. So yeah, not surprisingly, they're going to keep Philly to under 100 in that scenario. And I think, Maxey and Harden combining for the poor performance performances that they did from three, maybe you think they regress a little bit, but like, come on, man, this is the Heat's defense. This isn't some fluky thing. They're not giving up any of those threes because they don't have to. There's nobody else. When you get into the lane against them at this point, Bam is able to handle either of those guys. James Harden, like you said, is just resorting to just sort of hitting the PJ Tucker in the head with the ball at this point, who also was 2 for 4 from three in the corner, was PJ, which you're going to continue to get. So honestly, I love the sort of substitutions that Spo made in terms of playing Gabe Vincent a lot more, knowing that Max Strus is one of his better wing defenders, on top of obviously still giving you that 3-point shooting that you lose when Duncan goes to the bench. And yeah, if Philly's going to try to resort to a zone, good luck against Tyler Hero, especially, who loves playing against zones and just cuts them up. And that's what he did in this game. And he was, I believe he was about plus 280 to be leading scorer in this game, which was a pretty good bet. Maxey had it for a while. And then, like we said, they switched a couple guys like Caleb Martin onto him. And it all stopped working for Philly at that point. So I continue to lean under. I do like your Miami unders in the first half. That's exactly what happened in this game. Once they took DeAndre Jordan out, then they were able to play defense against the Heat. And I think you continue to like that, but you continue to like this Heat defense, especially if you don't see Embiid in this series. I'm going to continue to field unders in this series, and definitely for that Philly team total.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate it, even though it's 98.5 points, taking the under there. Like I said, yeah, they held Atlanta under that 3 times. And it's not a coincidence that Atlanta has the highest turnover rate in these playoffs so far, and that they shut down Trae Young, who frankly at this stage in his career is a lot tougher to defend than James Harden. I mean, and unlike the Bucks, who will just pick who they want to let shoot threes, Miami also gives up, I think, the second most threes per game. It's because there's nothing else you can get, right? It's because you're taking these tough step backs. You're taking contested shots. They're so good at denying penetration. It's like a freaking accordion where they just come in and then it's either a turnover or you're kicking it out. And then all of a sudden they're back out there contesting three. And the quality of looks, I don't think it's a fluke that they went 6 for 34 from three. I mean, Philly's also a terrible 3-point shooting team. Yeah. If they're not going to play Korkmaz or Danny Green more, then they won't be able to really get some much positive aggression there. And I don't think they can play many of those guys for extended minutes. So, yeah, I mean, 98.5, very low, but minus 110 still to the under, tempting some odds. I think, you can look at the series odds at this point too, and think, we don't know if Embiid's going to be back for game 3 or 4 yet. And Miami in 5 at plus 200 or 6, maybe the series spread is what. Yeah, well,
interesting there is that they were minus 330 before game 1 was Miami. They only went down to minus 500. They're the 1 seed and they're up 1-0, but there's that looming does Joel Embiid come back in game 3 sort of scenario that I think keeps these odds at minus 500. But normally they'd probably be closer to minus 650, minus 7 after a 1-0 lead for the Heat in this scenario.
Yeah, but I mean, struggling close out Toronto with Embiid. I mean, he still has torn ligaments in his thumb, even once he's cleared to play. Like, yeah, it's hard to imagine him just completely changing the series.
Agreed.
To do more than steal a game or two. So, yeah, I think you can think about ways for Miami to advance here, betting that. But for game 2, yeah, I mean, without Embiid, they scored just under 106 per game. Their 3-point percentage dropped 5 percentage points to 32%. Like I'm saying, they can't get any quality looks because they can't get those double teams. Yep. And that's going to be poison against this Miami defense that just loves to say, all right, you got to funnel into the lane. We know exactly what to do with you once you're in there.
Yep. Yeah, and that's why I think, look, Tobias is someone you might see continue to shine. Like I said, once they put Jimmy Butler on Tobias a little bit later after he was cooking, that helped a lot, especially in that fourth quarter where Jimmy spent the majority of his time on him. But I still think at the same time, you're going to this is a matchup for Tobias in the sense that, like you said, normally the 76ers they're either getting open threes or they're getting, good drives to the lane because the defense is off balance because they double team Joel. And when he passes out of it, they've got to scatter back, right? But there's none of that now. So the only guys that you really look at this point that can beat their own guy off the dribble or be bigger than their guy is Tobias Harris, who's bigger than the guy guarding him usually, and at least able to get his shot off against most defenders in a slower half court setting. And then you got Tyrese Maxey, who can blow by guys even if they're not sort of scrambling to get back to him. That's it. That's it. That's the extent of your playmaking. James Harden has proven he's not getting by guys now at this point. And when he does, he's inefficient, and still he has nobody to pass off to in a dunker spot or anything of that nature right now. So there's just not much help on offense for Philly right now, and that's why you continue to feel good about Miami.
I think Dallas will do a better job, playing of defense and keeping it close. But yeah, I do like the over, just based on the fact that Phoenix, when they're flexing their muscles, just like the Bucks did in the second round, to say, we're trying to go back to the chip here. They do it on offense, and it was incredible balanced scoring. Exactly what we thought coming into this series is that what Dallas tries to take away, Phoenix does really well. That's why they've now won 10 straight over this team. And Phoenix, with Booker looking pretty healthy, that's a huge difference in terms of how you're going to bet the total. Yeah, I mean, Book had 28 points, I believe, nearly a triple-double, opening things up for everybody, all 5 starters in double figures. They shot 50% from the field or better for a 7th straight game now. And the pace relatively high for a Mavs game, I guess, 94. Yeah. And the reason you like the over is just because Luka's still in God mode with 45 points on a 43% usage. I told you, it reminds me of his first 2 playoff series against the Clippers, where they had all the weapons of the world to throw at him. He was still scoring 40 plus with like a 45% usage rate early in those series. In 2020, 4 of the first 5 went over. And then the next year, 2 of the first 3 went over before Ty Lue made adjustments and the Clippers were able to win that series. So I mean, at the total, barely any higher than it was in game 1 here. I think you do like it. I'm really interested in these match total points parlays that FanDuel offers, which are really interesting because they don't move from where it opened at 215.5. Right. And then you can just go down. You can actually go all the way down to Suns money line and over 211 and still get plus odds. So you can choose any points, any total below 215 or go higher. If you want Suns money line at 220, it's plus 220, so you can flex all over there. And I mean, I think that's what we're looking at as long as the Suns are home here. And as long as Booker's healthy. Look, they've gone over now in 11 of their last 15 playoff games. And the exceptions are when they held New Orleans under 100 twice in that last series, the game 1, and then when Book was out for one of those games. And then 2 games at Milwaukee in the finals, which is a completely different level of intensity. The Mavericks defense, while good, like I said, they don't stop what the Suns like to do. And they gave up 27% of those points in the mid-range. They did not rebound at all, 64% defensive rebounding rate, giving up 13 offensive rebounds to the Suns, who out-rebounded them by 15. Yeah. But clapping back on the other end with 120 offensive rating and outscoring the Suns by 10 in the fourth quarter to make sure you got points down the stretch. I think you also expect some positive regression from Luka's co-stars here. Even if he doesn't score 45 again, Brunson and Dinwiddie combined to shoot 37%, got only 21 points combined. And Luka consistently getting to the free throw line, got both Bridges and Crowder into foul trouble by doing that. So that could open the game up for them offensively if the Suns aren't able to stick Bridges on him all game. Not that he was able to stop him. Luka, clearly just one of the best playoff performers at a young age that we've seen in a while. And I think that's why you trust the points to keep flowing here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Mikal spent most of his time on Luka, and Luka had 10 points in the roughly 7 minutes that he was guarding him. So, I mean, nobody's going to do much better than that right now for the Suns. And that's the thing too, by the way, it's a very individual defensive performance against Luka. I think Monty Williams he created a game plan that according to the way that he subbed and the way that his rotations worked in that game, et cetera, it seemed like it went exactly the way he wanted it to, which was, go ahead, Luka, go ahead, go for 45, 12 boards, get 8 assists in there. That's fine. We're not worried about that. We can score 121 on you guys. We're not scared of your defense, despite how good it was this season. And we're not scared of anybody's when we have Devin Booker in there, who led the team in assists, fed Ayton the way that we talked about Ayton, Chris Paul only had 3 assists in this game because he was scoring and just sort of watching things materialize and making sure that he put guys in the right spot to either, score or he got the hockey assist from there. So it was a beautiful performance all around. Mikal tried his best on Luka, but like I said, there weren't double teams thrown at Luka at all. And it was really just like no one else is going to have wide open shots off of you. Dorian Finney-Smith is Luka's go-to. And that was somebody that was in there, that he was diming up. And 15 points for Finney-Smith, getting to the line 4 times for him, the 6 boards you expect. I think you continue to expect a lot of that, about 20 points and rebounds combined kind of performances for him. And there might be some player prop opportunities there. But I think, you also look at the way that J. Kidd tried to counteract what Phoenix was doing, and he just basically gave up on defense and was like, okay, Kleber, get in there and fire away from the corner. And we'll see if that works. Brunson going 6 for 16 was also pretty much by design. It was, like I said, Luka's going to be double teamed and Jalen's not going to get one-on-one matchups where he's going to be able to take his guy. And once again, DeAndre Ayton, he's not Rudy Gobert in terms of defensive player of the year down low, stuffing guys during the regular season. He's a better playoff center though, because he's not, you can't target him on switches. He can still move and stay in front of guys. He knows, he obviously knows the game plan well enough to know who he needs to come out on and who he can sag off of, which is all very impressive. So, really impressed with all of that. And then, I think that the last thing to think there for in terms of the offense for the Mavs is, if Kleber's going to be their only other X factor, who else do they have? And Spencer Dinwiddie played 30 minutes in this game and only gave them 8 points, and that's becoming a serious issue because he's not a defensive liability. He can guard guys too. It'd be nice to have him on the floor, but he's not putting up buckets in a way that he's able to play off of Luka. And that trade is now looking a lot worse. It seems like it was really just for having Dinwiddie as a backup to Luka when Luka wasn't able to play, rather than someone who can play alongside Luka, or at least J. Kidd just hasn't figured out how to use him alongside Luka anymore in these playoffs. And that's becoming, I think, a huge issue for them because that's their third scorer. And if they don't have that, there's no other guy that can create their own shot against this Phoenix defense, which, like I said, is not going to be doubling guys. It's just going to continue switching with all 5 of their really good defenders and play to that extent. So yeah, I'm not feeling great about maybe any more unders in this series. But I think it's time to feel good while we're here in Phoenix about those overs. Based on the fact that, like I said, they're going to let Luka get his. He might get plenty of 30-point triple doubles, and I think they still feel good about getting their 115, let's say, each time that they're out.
Yeah, that's it right there. I mean, they're not going to double Luka, and then that makes it tough for all these other guys who are just mostly 3-and-D guys. Aside from Brunson, Dinwiddie can create a shot a little bit, but they've just thrived off Luka drawing 2 and then hitting them with a pinpoint pass in the corner. And if that's not available, the Mavs are in trouble in terms of keeping pace, but Luka can get 45, 50 and make sure you do keep pace, which is why we still like the over there, but why the Suns, are going to have to keep up. They're going to be under pressure offensively to maintain that efficiency, which they have. Like I said, especially at home, they've been consistent scoring the basketball. You said kind of in the middle of the season, like, are the Mavs a really good defense, or are they just a pretty good defense that plays really slow, limiting things? And that seems to be what we're seeing here. I mean, it's a lot easier task to contain Donovan Mitchell and the backup singers, to just throw DFS on him and try to deny that penetration, be able to help off Rudy and try to scramble back to avoid that, than it is to contain a well-coached 5-man team that moves the ball hyper efficiently and has a coach on the floor as well in Chris Paul. Yep. Yeah, it's kind of a masterclass in terms of how to orchestrate an offense. Like you said, Chris Paul not even necessarily being the one to throw the passes, but just kind of showing, his basketball mind, orchestrating everything. And Luka still not there as a playmaker yet, but very much there in terms of able to get his own. So, I think I'm going to stick by that Suns money line and over. They did go over 34 and 20 on normal rest pretty consistently, and 41 and 27 to the over after a win. When they start to get rolling, that offense is good to watch, and it's a pretty low total for them considering who they're going up against in terms of a superstar who can score on the other end.
Yeah, 100%. And one other point I wanted to make about, Dallas sort of going to the offensive lineup and just saying, okay, go ahead, get in there, Maxi Kleba, even giving Bertans about 8.5 minutes in the game just to see if they could get any offense out of him as well. He did hit a three, but that was the same case for Phoenix, who played Cam Johnson 24 minutes in this game, despite Book being there, right? Where normally Cam's playing. I mean, that's around hit the minutes that he plays, maybe a few less when Booker's in the lineup. But they went to him in this one where he was hot, as obviously is why they kept him in there. He was shooting 6 for 10 from the field. But they kept out, Torrey Craig only played about 2 minutes in this game, 3 minutes. And like I said, Cam Johnson even came in and ate up a little bit of Jay Crowder's minutes, who played under 30 in this game, just because, he wasn't a liability on defense, and it really didn't matter at that point. Because like I said, there's one guy running around chasing Luka, unless they get a switch. And then other than that, everyone else just stands on their guy who's standing around the 3-point line waiting for, like you said, that 3-and-D kick out from Luka. So I think that the offense can continue to be fine for Dallas. I think if Phoenix wants to play at the pace they do at home, and like we said, like you said, great call to continue. Like, I think feeling good about the offense in this game. Maybe by the time game 4 hits, maybe even game 3. I think game 3 Luka comes out hot too, but maybe in game 4 is when you start to look at things slowing down. Luka getting tired from having to carry this offense from 3 games in a row and getting beat up by this defense at all turns, and that's where you start to feel like the points might decrease a bit in this series, and definitely Luka's points and props might decrease a bit. But game 2, I don't think is the one that we're calling for that to happen just yet. So anyway, that is all the time that we have for you in this one. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. Continue to follow along with us as we bring you each and every playoff game with a video, as well as these player props videos we have up for you as well. And until we see you next, happy betting.